They're not going to foul. The Heat will let it play out. It's over. At last, the long wait is over. After 47 years, the Denver Nuggets can finally call themselves NBA champions.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Basketball in the Mountains. This is episode 60, another little milestone episode here on the show. I am your host, as always, Tyler King. Appreciate everyone who is watching or listening or listening today to today's episode. Going to be another solo episode for me here on the feed. Recording this on Monday evening, doing another little mashup episode with some NBA and college takeaways from the weekend that was. But got to start in the NBA. Actually, before I get into anything, as always, got to make sure to remind all of you to subscribe to the feed wherever you listen, whether that's on Apple, Spotify, or if you prefer to watch all the episodes over on my YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe there as well. Leave a like on the video on YouTube. Leave a comment as well. Let me know what you guys think of today's episode, how you guys are feeling about your favorite team or teams in Mountain Time Zone. Same goes over on Spotify, Apple. Leave those 5-star reviews. Spotify, you can leave comments on the episodes. So all that stuff really helps me grow the show and get it out to a wider audience, which is the goal here. But appreciate all of you that have been listening for a while now, especially those of you that have been around for the beginning, almost a year now of doing the show. Obviously, first full season of the show, but almost a full calendar year of doing these episodes, and really appreciate everybody that's been listening from the beginning. It really means a lot to me. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Have to start out in the NBA and with the all-star starters that were revealed earlier today. Nikola Jokic, surprise, surprise, is a starter once again. I think it's the 6th straight year that he is a starter, 8th overall selection, which ties him with Alex English for the most selections all-star selections in Nuggets history. Jokic almost certainly going to surpass that next season, barring health. So just shout out to the Joker for getting another all-star selection. Never really in doubt, even though he's missed these last 11 games, which we'll talk about here a little bit. Nuggets continue to survive without the Joker, and I don't think it's any kind of indictment on him, even though his MVP case is almost certainly going to be, I don't want to say ruined, but just hurt to a point where he's not going to, even if he does somehow return in the next week or so and play 65 games, that I just don't think it'll be enough, barring a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander extended absence, all that kind of stuff. But Joker certainly deserving of this all-star selection. And if he does get the 65 games, he'll almost certainly be first-team All-NBA once again, which he has been, I think, for the last 5 years. I think 2023 was the only one he didn't make first team All NBA, and he was second team All NBA. So Nuggets, though, continue to survive and rack up wins without their superstar Serbian center. 7-4 in the last 11 games, all without Nikola Jokic. Somehow, I don't know how they're doing it, folks, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I know how they're doing it. Peyton Watson's been awesome. Jamal Murray in the games he's played has been awesome, even though he's missed a couple now. Getting Aaron Gordon back during the stretch has helped too. Same goes for Christian Brown, although he's dealing a little bit with the ankle injury is kind of not resurfaced, but just kind of re-aggravated shortly after he got back onto the floor. So the Nuggets are playing it really cautious with him, which they should at this point here in mid-January. But they had won 4 straight until Sunday night's game on the second night of a back-to-back, losing at home to Charlotte, who, if we're looking at kind of the stats from the last 11 games here, the Nuggets are, like, the reason I said I don't know how they're doing this is because they're 22nd in net rating over this span that they've gone 7-4, minus 2.3. And whereas a team like Charlotte, who absolutely blitzed the Nuggets on Sunday night, again, on the second night of a back-to-back. I can't remember if Charlotte was on a back-to-back or not as well, but they were kind of near the end of a long road swing. They're 3rd in the league in net rating over these last 11 games, and they're only 5-6. Two games worse than the Nuggets, who are minus 2.3 or whatever it is I said, and are 22nd in the league over that span. But hey, sometimes you got to get lucky, and if you're the Nuggets, you're certainly not going to complain one bit because you got to keep getting these wins whenever they come. And yeah, the competition has not really been great over this, man, especially the last week or so. I think dating back to the Atlanta game, which was the first game after the really long East Coast road trip for Denver. They have played 6 straight teams with a losing record. Obviously, winning 4 of those is important, even with got multiple guys out, and winning the 4-0 against Milwaukee, the back-to-back against New Orleans and Dallas on the road earlier this week, and then getting the win over Washington on Saturday on the first night of that back-to-back, like I mentioned. So it's going to remain a little bit easier for the Nuggets over the next week or so. Not super easy, but certainly not as daunting as what the end of January is going to bring, and early in February is going to bring, leading into the All-Star break for this club. So obviously they got the Lakers game on Tuesday night. I think NBA is kind of doing a little bit of a rivalry week across the league. The game's going to be on NBC and Peacock, 8 o'clock at Ball Arena. Should be an awesome game. Fortunately, I won't be there for it. I'll be up in Boulder for an even later night tip-off. Colorado and Kansas are facing off at the event center at 9 o'clock on ESPN. So I'll be at that game and not down at Ball Arena for the Lakers game. But then the Nuggets go back east for a 3-game road trip later this week. I think there's a back-to-back on Thursday and Friday at Washington, at Milwaukee, and then on Sunday they play in Memphis again. So 3 more teams with losing records on the docket this week before they come home next Tuesday when they play the Pistons. And then you get the Clippers coming to town, who have played well more recently. Oklahoma City, finally, they get to play them. We haven't seen these 2 teams square off, which everyone thinks are the 2 best teams in the league and the 2 biggest title contenders when fully healthy. So we'll finally get to see them here at Ball Arena on Sunday, February 1st. Then they go to Detroit, at New York, at Chicago, who's a frisky team. And there's a decent amount of games following the All-Star break then too, against some tougher teams. Like you have the road trip, first road game against Oklahoma City. Boston comes here, some more Lakers games, some more another Knicks game, Houston again, all that kind of stuff. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because we're looking at games in about a month's time, but we'll probably recap or catch back up with the Nuggets in about a week or so after these next 3 games, or 4 games I should say, this week, and heading into the big game against the Pistons, the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, next Tuesday night here in Denver. I'll probably do a little bit deeper dive on the state of the Nuggets and the month that has been for the Nuggets, mostly without Nikola Jokic next week. But I wanted to give a shout out to Joker on the top of the show today because I don't think all the historical stuff is not really something he likes to talk about during his career. He said all that kind of stuff. It's not like I don't think he's a guy that doesn't appreciate his own greatness or greatness in general, and just kind of all the historical stuff that comes with being a superstar player. But it's kind of stuff he'll want to think of. He says he wants to think about after his career is over. But it is cool for him to tie Alex English for the all-time record of all-star appearances by a Nuggets player. He's the only player, Alex English is, that is ahead of Nikola Jokic on the franchise's all-time scoring list. I think Joker, he was either earlier this year or last season, became the team's franchise all-time leading rebounder. He passed Dan Issel earlier this season for second place on the scoring list, all that kind of stuff. He's got the most assists Jokic does in franchise history. So all that kind of stuff. Even Dan Issel himself, I remember him, somebody had the story or talked to him during the finals run almost 3 years ago now. Wow. That Dan Issel called Joker, the greatest Nugget that's ever lived, all the way back then, 3 years ago in 2023, before he even won a ring, although he had won 2 MVPs by that point. But so just kind of putting all some of the historical greatness in context for Nikola Jokic, who even though he hasn't played in a couple weeks and still might be a week or 2 away from returning, although I saw my friend Vinny Benedetto and some other people on the beat saying last week that Joker was out there on the practice court a little bit, getting some light work in as he works his way back toward getting back to the 5-on-5 and then back on the court for games as well, so which could be coming up here in the near future. So as soon as the Nuggets can get him back out there, will be best, because even though, like I said, they have gone 7-4 without him out and have a chance to get some more wins this week, you want him back out there as soon as possible, if not just to lighten the load of all the guys who have really really stepped up in the last couple of weeks, whether that's Jamal Murray, Jalen Pickett, Peyton Watson, obviously, Zeke Naji, and some of the other guys. Tim Hardaway Jr. has had some big games during the stretch as well, and all those guys will get to rest a little bit once the Joker does make his return. So sticking with the NBA here today, I want to talk a little bit about Phoenix because they got some great news earlier today. Ahead of their game against the Nets, which they won 126-117, a nice win for the Suns to kind of get back, back on track. They've won 2 in a row. They had a nice win over the Knicks on Saturday night as well after a 2 losses to begin this East Coast swing, the 6-game East Coast swing that we talked about on last Monday's episode or last week's. I can't remember exactly which day the episode came out, but the first episode of last week, we talked about this East Coast swing for the Suns. That was going to be really important, and they're 2-2 so far after losing in Miami and Detroit, getting back-to-back wins in New York City, one over the Knicks, and now tonight over Brooklyn. But to that good news, Jalen Green is Coach Jordan Ott said that he is set to make his return on tomorrow night. Phoenix has a back-to-back is on Tuesday. It continues on Tuesday in Philadelphia against the Sixers, who are also going to be on a back-to-back. They played tonight, and I think they beat the Pacers. So both teams will be on a back-to-back, and the Suns will be getting some reinforcements there. And Sixers on a back-to-back, and I think Joel Embiid and Paul George both played tonight, or at least I think Joel Embiid did. Maybe Paul George did not. So Joel Embiid probably won't play tomorrow, but Paul George probably will for Philadelphia. But they've obviously got Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, the standout rookie. So it won't be an easy game for the Suns, but getting Jalen Green back is going to be awesome for this team. I'm not sure if he's going to be starting or coming off the bench. I mean, back when he first made his season debut and Suns debut a couple months ago, I think that was late November. The 5 quarters he was able to play that we've talked about so much on this podcast that were so fantastic and so encouraging for the just the addition of Jalen Green, who the much behooved addition as part of the Kevin Durant trade, myself included. I'm not going to pretend like I was the biggest fan have been the biggest fan of Jalen Green early in his career, and especially when he was a part of that trade for Phoenix. But can't say it hasn't worked out so far with how well Dillon Brooks has played, and he kind of shook off some rust a little bit, or shook off a little bit of a shooting slump, and had 27 points to lead the team tonight. But getting Jalen Green back will be huge. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see if he comes off the bench or not, because last time he was in the lineup, he was starting, and Colin Gillespie had not yet really fully cemented himself as a starter. He's obviously been playing well all season, but the Suns coaching staff had really kind of tried to keep him as a bench guy for as long as possible, but he's obviously been starting pretty recently and remains one of the team's most productive players. Even if, tonight you look at it, he was 22 points on excellent efficiency, 7 to 10 from the field, 5 to 7 from deep. He was a game high plus 16. He just continues to be a really, really great all-around player for this team. At 5 assists, again, 5 rebounds. Like, he's been doing everything out of the point guard spot. And I think it's helped out Devin Booker too. He had 24 points again tonight on pretty good efficiency, 10 of 18 from the field. Only took a couple of threes, but that just having another extra really good ball handler out there in Colin Gillespie has certainly helped Devin Booker. And that's not to say Jalen Green is not a good ball handler, but he's a guy that isn't really your prototypical point guard that Gillespie is, and even. So when it is Jalen Green and Devin Booker, which I'm sure we'll see plenty of going forward, should Jalen Green be able to remain healthy here, which obviously we're hoping he does, because you don't want to see a guy who's missed so much time this season continue to deal with injuries. It's nice for him and for the team to kind of get him back. I'm sure we'll see him and Devin Booker together throughout on the court, whether it's tomorrow night and going forward. But I maybe would like to see Jalen Green come off the bench, just kind of ease him back in, because this team, like I said, has been playing so well for the majority of the season. They're 26-17, 7th in the West right now. 1 game behind the Lakers in the loss column for the 6th spot. And 2 games up on Golden State for the top play-in spot. And like I've said for the last couple of weeks, I really think that's kind of where this is going to end up being for Phoenix, and where they're going to end up settling when the regular season comes to an end. Is that 7th best team in the West? Now maybe the Lakers slip a little bit, and the Phoenix can crack into the top 6, but I think that the top 5 of the West at this point is pretty secure, with OKC, San Antonio, Denver, Minnesota, and Houston. Lakers, maybe they're in their own tier. Phoenix, maybe they're in their own tier, and then you've got the likes of Golden State, Portland, Clippers, who are now in that final play-in spot. That's kind of like the teams I don't think aren't tanking, but especially Golden State and LA. The Clippers are obviously not tanking, but then you've got the teams at the bottom of the West that certainly are tanking and not trying to be in that play-in. So it's things are kind of shaking themselves out naturally in the Western Conference standings, and I think the Suns should be feeling pretty good there in seventh place in the West. And like I said, maybe they can creep into the top six as things go along here. But yeah, like I said, I think Colin Gillespie is a guy that I just want to see. I want to keep him in that role he's been in, that he seemed to be comfortable in at this point, because you look at some of the two-man lineups on the floor so far, that have played a decent amount of minutes. Looking at the NBA stats here, minutes, two-man lineups for Phoenix that have played 300 or more minutes together. I think Colin Gillespie, he's part of 3 of the top 5, and he's a part of the best one. Him and Ryan Dunn actually are the best one in terms of net rating at plus 14.8. Colin Gillespie and Oso Ighodaro have been a good played well together. Same for Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin. Gillespie and Booker is on here as well. Gillespie and Dylan Brooks. Has been positive. All these kind of lineups. It just shows kind of the impact that Gillespie has had on this team, which is not, it's kind of undeniable at this point. He's just been such a really, really solid player. Can't take him out of the lineup, out of the rotation at all. And I really think he deserves to keep his starting spot for now, because he's played well. And even though this road trip continues here with Philly and Atlanta later this week before they finally return home on Sunday for the Heat, and then they got the Nets and then the Pistons and the Cavs coming to town, so some East Coast teams coming to town, coming to Phoenix for the end of January. I think Suns fans should remain encouraged from what this team has been able to do. Obviously, expectations have quickly shifted from where they were in the preseason. The fact that they are already, I think, 5 or 6 wins away from surpassing some of the common over-under win totals that were out there before the season. I think the one we saw before we did our over-under episode on this podcast was 31.5. Obviously, I took the over, but I wasn't expecting them to surpass it at some point in February. I thought they'd get 34, 35, 36 wins and be a team somewhere maybe in the back end of the play-in or out on the outside looking into the play-in. Certainly was not expecting this. And like I said, I think they're pretty clearly at this point the 7th best team in the Western Conference, which is nothing to sneeze at. And, I'm just kind of quickly looking at this stat thing that I had pulled up from the Nuggets perspective. We're looking at the last 11 games where they were 7-4 and ranking 22nd in net rating. The Suns are also 7-4 in the last 11 games and are ranked 8th in the league in net rating, right above the Sixers, who they play tomorrow night. So lots of encouraging stuff from Phoenix. And I think there's enough this is enough of a sample size now to show that this is for real. Like this is just kind of how solid the team has been. And I think I said this last week, like that. That solid, I think, is the perfect word for this team, because you've got your star and Devin Booker, who's kind of rejuvenated this year, having a solid season. I think he should be an all-star when the reserves come out. Obviously wasn't named a starter today, but I think he, the way he's led this team, certainly deserves to be an all-star, and kind of the numbers he's put up as well. So we'll switch over to college, because really not a ton to talk about with the Jazz. They are fully in tank mode since the last time we've talked, and have suffered a couple of big losses. And that's just kind of going to be the state of the Jazz. We'll probably catch up with them in a couple weeks. We'll see what they look like heading into the trade deadline, all that kind of stuff. But fully in tank mode out there in Salt Lake City, as they should be. They've got to keep that top 8 protected pick, which I've talked about on this podcast. Keontae George still looks pretty good. Bryce Sensabaugh had a big game last week. I think he scored 40-plus points in a game that they lost at the buzzer, or it was a really tight game. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Close losses where you're getting some encouraging performances out of the guys. Not on the fringe of the roster, but a fringe of kind of what the team is going to look like going forward. Obviously, you got your Keontae Georges, your Lauri Markkanens, your linchpins going forward. Ace Bailey as well should be counted in that. But you're trying to see what you can get out of Cody Williams, Bryce, who's played better this month, I think. Bryce Sensabaugh, Kyle Filipowski, all those kind of guys. So we'll switch over to college, because there's plenty of takeaways from the college game from this past weekend, and we have to start in Phoenix with Grand Canyon. 84-74 win over number 23 Utah State. Utah State's first Mountain West loss of the season, just their second loss overall of the season. Both of them have come in true road games. I think they lost at South Florida back in the non-conference, and now they dropped their first Mountain West game of the season. We obviously previewed this game on on the last episode. Had our guy Brendan Williams on from Golips Radio on the podcast. Make sure to go check out his recap episode from this game, because I know he was really excited and did a great job kind of breaking down all the aspects of a really, really impressive GCU win. They're now 4-2 in the Mountain West, and this is, we said before the game that this would be a statement win for the Lopes, and I fully believe that's exactly what this is, because I said after when they went on the road and beat Boise State earlier in Mountain West play that was a statement. Well, Boise isn't as strong as maybe some people thought, but Utah State certainly is. Utah State is clearly the best team in the conference, even though San Diego State remains undefeated, which we'll talk a little bit about that game against Mexico later, but or next, I should say, but I still think Utah State is clearly the best team in the Mountain West. Mason Falstaff had a great game, 25 points, not a great efficiency, but he also had 12 rebounds. He's just a monster. You got to give Grand Canyon a lot of credit for limiting him or making him earn his buckets, Mason Falstaff, and same for MJ Collins, who only had 12 points on 5 of 13 shots, 1 of 6 from 3. They really made him work for everything. He only had 1 assist as well in the game. So a really great job by Grand Canyon kind of limiting Utah State's explosive offense. The Aggies only shot 36% as a team and 25% from three-point range. Got to the line 23 times, but that's 10 less than GCU had. They had 33 free throw attempts in the game. Nana Owosu, Anane was huge in the game. Had a double-double, 11 points, 11 rebounds. Had 4 steals in the game too. He was awesome. But Brian Moore Jr., man, he was really, really good and kind of was the leading scorer that I wasn't sure if it was going to be him or Jaden Henley or maybe even Caleb Shaw. Both those guys did end up in double figures, but Brian Moore was everything this team needed to be. 20 points, 6 of 10 from the field, got to the line 8 times. Him and Mekhi Williams, who also had a great game off the bench with 20 points, got to the line 10 times, although he missed 5 of them. But those two guys were really kind of attacking downhill against a really, really good Utah State defense. We talked about that in the lead up to the game. Like, the perimeter of Utah State's defense is legit with MJ Collins and Drake Allen and Mason Falstaff out there. We talked about how as well that the interior was a little bit could have been there for the taking for Utah State. Like, it's not the strongest front court in the Mountain West, but that perimeter, if you can, it's tough to get past. But if you can, then you can kind of make an impact on the game. And I think that's exactly what GCU was able to do. So had to start there because that was such an impressive win for them. And like I mentioned, also got to mention New Mexico. Suffering their second loss in Mountain West play, falling to 5-2. A really, really epic game at Viejas. San Diego State had a really, really impressive first half. 48 points, jumped out to a 13-point lead heading in the locker room, but got to give New Mexico credit for battling back. They scored 44 points in the second half, but just wasn't enough in the end. Tomislav Buljan led the way for them, 20 points, 14 rebounds, 4 steals, a block as well. Had a bunch of turnovers in the game, which you kind of expect when you're in the pit, or not in the pit, when you're at Viejas. Excuse me. Dayton Albury as well. I mean, Bullion is an older freshman, so we don't really call him a freshman, but him and Albury, kind of the older guys on the team, at least at 12 turnovers combined, which is really not what you want. And that's kind of what did New Mexico in the end, was just too many turnovers to kind of overcome from the first half, and then some bad ones late as well. So I still really do not know what to make of San Diego State. We don't talk about them a ton on this podcast, but they are atop the Mountain West standings at this point. Miles Bird had a pretty good game, 21-8, got to the free throw line 9 times. It's just a whole cast of characters for San Diego State. They play 6 guys off the bench, so 11 guys total. You still just really do not know what to expect from Dutcher's squad, but they're deep, and they're going to try to figure it out night to night, and they were able to do so against New Mexico. I wanted to hit that one as well. And then over in the Big 12, before we get out of here today, I'm not going to be too long of an episode today. Have to start with the epic game in Lubbock, which BYU drops. Great first half for BYU, only down by 1 going to the locker room, but Texas Tech offense really exploded in the second half. Christian Anderson, JT Toppin, Lawan Watts, the big 3 for the Red Raiders, was awesome in this game. BYU suffers their first loss in the Big 12 and just their second loss overall. They had a 10 or 11, I think it was 10 or 11 game winning streak going into the game, but that place is a really hard place to win right now, especially with how good Texas Tech is. And I mentioned Anderson, Watts, and Toppin combined for almost 70 points, I think, in the game. I think they combined for 69 points. Toppin had a double-double with 13 rebounds. Watts had 8 rebounds as well. Anderson had 7 assists. Like, those 3 guys are just awesome. I've talked about how I think Iowa State might have the best trio in the Big 12 and in the country as well with Lipsy, Momcilovic, and Jefferson. But I don't know, man. I saw that Red Raiders trio in person a week ago, a little over a week ago at this point when they came to Boulder. Maybe that trio is the best in the country because those 3 guys are really, really awesome and kind of do a little bit of just about everything for a Texas Tech team that has Final Four aspirations once again. AJ Demancia's 20 plus point game streak ended. He only had 13 points on pretty bad efficiency, 6 of 17 from the field in the game. Just bothered a little bit by Texas Tech's physicality and their length. Rob Wright was awesome, though. Rob Wright, the third, 28 points on 17 shots, was perfect, 9 of 9 from the free throw line. He's really coming into his zone. So that trio of him, Richie Saunders, and Demancia has played really well. Although, like I said, Demancia struggled in this past game. Wright was excellent. He also had a couple of assists, a couple of rebounds. Richie Saunders had 18 points in the game as well, but just not enough from Demancia and not enough from the rest of the guys. I think if you take out the only 3 guys in double figures were Demancia, Saunders, and Wright, like I mentioned, and then the other highest scorer was Kennard Davis with 5, and then a couple guys off the bench had a couple points, but they Kevin Young kind of went with a shorter rotation for this game, just 8 guys. And even so, like Mihailo Boskovic only played 7 minutes. So you're looking at 7 guys that played 15 plus minutes. So really heavy minutes for these guys. I think Rob Wright and Richie Saunders in particular almost played the entire game. So that might be the formula going forward. BYU's got a couple of days off here before they play Utah at home. The second time, back these 2 rivalry games against the Utes are coming in quick succession here, and we'll maybe preview that game a little bit more in depth later this week on the podcast, because obviously BYU next Monday, a week from today, has got that awesome game against Arizona, the number 1 team in the country, who obviously we're going to wrap the show with today. Arizona, I think, pretty clearly the best team in the country at this point. Like, even when they broke into the top spot in the AP poll after Purdue lost at home to Iowa State. Michigan still had a case. I remember there was that one week where it was like 1 point in the AP poll separating these 2 teams. It was like one of the closest in AP poll history in terms of the top spot. But now Michigan lost at home to Wisconsin. Iowa State lost 2 games this past week. They were undefeated at that time as well. And Arizona, just, I think, pretty clearly the best team in the country. Like I said, they've taken care of business in some of these tougher road games. They are now 18-0 and 2 wins away from what I've been saying for weeks now of what I think they will be heading into that BYU game that I mentioned a minute ago, which is next Monday in Provo, which I think Arizona's going to be 20-0 going into that game because they've got home games against Cincinnati and West Virginia this week, who I got to see both those teams. I watched both those teams early last week because they both played Colorado on their Eastern time zone road swing. Wasn't super impressed by either team. We'll talk a little bit more about CU probably later this week as well, because I'll see them again in person on Tuesday night when they host Kansas, like I mentioned. No Bill Self for that game, by the way. I just found that out a little bit ago. He was hospitalized earlier today, but it seems like he's all right. Just an overly precautionary measure to get some fluids in him, and he did not make the trip to Boulder, so he will not be at the game on Tuesday night as well. So hopefully Coach Self gets a quick recovery and is able to be back on the sidelines for the Jayhawks some point soon. But back to Arizona, like I said, they had in the last week and a half, they've had a couple difficult games, obviously going on the road to TCU. They won that game pretty comfortably. Then they had the rivalry game against Arizona State at home earlier last week, and were able to kind of pull away late in a game. ASU led at halftime. Some impressive stuff from the Sun Devils going on the road and making their biggest rival, Arizona, sweat it out a little bit. But then, Wildcats take care of business in that game, and then go on the road against a pretty solid UCF team who came in the game at 14-2 and looking like a solid contender in the Big 12. But Arizona just able to take care of business, especially late in the second half. They pulled away in the final couple minutes of the game. just really good production all around. Jaden Bradley had a great game, 23 points, 13 free throw attempts in the game. So, he was really kind of getting downhill and working his way to the free throw line as a veteran player does, in a tough road environment. It was what you want to see out of a veteran player, at least in a tough road game. Mo Krivas had a great game, double-double, 17 and 12. Braden Burries had 18 points. Cole Pete was really quiet in this game. He only played 20 minutes. I can't remember. I think he had some foul trouble in the first half, but he only ended up with 2 fouls. But he only took 4 shots and had 4 points. So impressive that Arizona was able to go on the road and win a game against a pretty solid opponent with Koa Pete being so quiet. But I mean, Tobe Awaka, there's no really better backup 4 in all of college basketball than Awaka, who had 10 points off the bench, 9 rebounds, had a block as well. Karchenkov, I thought, was pretty impressive as well, despite having some turnovers. So this is just a really, really good Arizona team. I don't know. I keep saying it every week, and we'll probably talk about them again next week, either before or after the BYU game, which we are very much anticipating here on this podcast with probably, definitely the 2 best college teams we have in the Mountain Time Zone this year. So that'll do it for today's episode. Appreciate everybody sticking with me for this half hour or so, little Monday mashup episode once again. Well, it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday for when you guys are all listening to this. But regardless, appreciate you listening. Make sure to subscribe as always, Apple or Spotify, or my YouTube channel at King_Tyler B. All the episodes can be found in video format on there as well. So appreciate everybody for listening. Have a good week and enjoy the week of basketball.